I'm Milton Schoen, and welcome back to America Salutes. And in this segment, we have an Assistant County Veteran Service Officer from Anoka County, Tony Tengwall. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Tony has brought along...
This is Fitz. He's an English Cocker Spaniel, 3.5 years old. He's a psychiatric service dog. So he's my dog, but he also works in the office every day. And he's great to have around.
Very good. Well, Tony, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got here?
Okay. I was in the National Guard for 11 years with the 151 Field Artillery Unit out of Montevideo. 10 years ago tomorrow, I deployed to Iraq. Spent a year over there in Baghdad. Came back. Since then, I worked for 5 years with the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs in the Higher Education Veterans Program. And just this past April, I took a job in Anoka County.
Very good. So working with veterans seems to be in your blood.
It is, yeah. I love it. It's a rewarding job. Every day you go home feeling good.
Very, very good. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your guide dog does for you?
Okay. So Fitz, he doesn't have any super specialized training. Some service dogs can be trained specific to the veteran. Basically, what he does for me, when I came home, I was having some readjustment issues, had a lot of anxiety, was holed up, kept to myself a lot, and I was lucky enough to get Fitz, which basically it started out real simple. It got me out of the house. Had to take him out for walks, had to take him out to go to the bathroom, whatever it was. And then from that point, a lot of people ask questions about the dog, so it got me talking to people, and it really forced me to have conversations I wouldn't have had. And it really kind of changed me because I was able to go back out and have conversations with folks, that sort of thing.
And this is a rather new phenomenon that's happened here in the last decade or so, where we've had service dogs and guide dogs. But one of the pluses is if veterans have unique specific needs, the dog can address them. And I know you were talking about this earlier. Right.
Dogs are easily trainable as long as you know what you're doing, which I really don't, but the professionals do. If you have a veteran who has nightmares, they can train them to wake you up if you're having a nightmare. They can train them to clear a room if that's your issue. If you don't like people behind you, they'll train the dog to walk behind you to create space. Basically anything that the veteran needs, they can train the dog to do. So for me, it's basically, like I said, getting me out, starting the conversations, that sort of thing. But I can also, like if I'm getting anxious or if I start getting into one of my moods, I don't see it myself, but Fitz can actually sense that. And he'll, like if I'm driving, I'll start getting road rage, he'll lay his head on my shoulder. And it reminds me that, hey, you're getting anxious, you need to calm down, and kind of leads me to see what's coming before I can see it.
And you mentioned that you brought Fitz to demobilization reintegration events, and what does he do at those events?
Yeah, when the Guard units would come home when I worked for the state, we would always have a representative there, and I would take him down to the debriefings and just kind of let him run in the room, which the returning soldiers loved it because they haven't been able to pet a dog in a year. And he's a cute dog, so everyone's happy. But then what he does is he'll actually has the ability to sense out who is the most stressed in the room and who needs him the most, and he'll run over and sit in front of him and force him to pet him, basically. Which it's the same thing at our office. People come in, they're not always in the best mood when they come to see the CVSO, and he comes in, or they come in, he greets them at the door, and they're like, oh, what a nice dog, and they're petting him, and it really takes the edge off.
So you make a good point there about when somebody comes to a county veteran service officer, oftentimes they're in crisis or they have an issue and they're not used to asking for help. So you're saying that this is a real icebreaker with them.
It really is. In my 2 years that I had him when I was with the state, I don't think I had one angry vet leave my office. I had a lot come in angry, but he would go over, jump on their lap or whatever, and they'd start petting him, and they just, dogs are very calming. So you can start petting them, and it just has that effect on just about everyone.
And I know we've got several county veteran service officers that have them, and you see more frequently at county and in businesses service dogs and guide dogs assisting both veterans and non-veterans who to lead more full life. And my assumption is that your life has gotten better since you've had the guide dog.
Yeah, it's you know, and even if I don't see it as much, which I can see that my life has been better since I got him, but other people have really noticed, and I'm more personable, I'm more open, I'm in a better mood. He's a real life changer for me.
And it makes a substantial difference in your connecting with the world, and you mentioned that it makes you go out more. Mm-hmm. And having a guide dog also can be in tune to your moods, and if you're if you don't have a spouse there to tell you, oftentimes I'm guided. If I'm in a mood or something happens, I've always got somebody there to give me feedback. But for an individual who's living alone, this has got to be just a godsend.
Yeah, it really was. And I'm married now, but I certainly wasn't, before I got Fitz, and I had a lot of relationship issues and that sort of thing. And he's really just, if I get upset, he's always going to be there, because every time you come in the door, he's so happy to see you. Every morning you wake up and he's ready to go. He jumps up on the bed and gives you a snuggle, and so.
But the important thing about a guide dog is that the uniqueness that you can train a dog to do specific things. If somebody maybe had a problem getting up in the morning, the dog could be trained to help get somebody up so they can get to work on time.
Yep.
And in other situations, the dog can be trained to meet that very specific need of the veteran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things where I've benefited tremendously is I'm an outdoorsman. I love hunting, I love fishing. I don't have a dog, or I didn't have a dog, because my schedule was busy. I would have never been able to raise a dog, keep a dog where I was staying, that sort of thing. But with a service dog, obviously, they come to work with you. They can be in the apartment no matter where you are. And then he's also an amazing hunter, mm-hmm. which took no training on my behalf. I just took him out, and he was a natural. So that's kind of, when I'm anxious or when I start to get in the mood, that's one of my releases, is going outdoors. And now I have a buddy that can go out and hunt pheasants, hunt ducks, that sort of thing.
And you've had a boss who's been supportive of your having a guide dog, and I assume that you had the guide dog prior to your being employed by Anoka County?
Yep, I've had him for about 2.5 years now. So working with the state, Dave Belfi was great. Loved having the dog around. All the schools loved it. Now I'm up in the office, and John has been just wonderful. I mean, everyone in the office loves him, because he comes in the morning, he runs around, says hi to everyone. Some days I think I could probably just drop him off and leave, and they wouldn't even notice I was gone, because they like him so much. So.
But it's and it's becoming more accepted, because at one time employers may not have been used to people having guide dogs.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of an uphill battle. Like, people see a service dog and they automatically think, oh, they're blind or whatever. Well, with psychiatric service dogs, the person may not look like they have any sort of disability, but there they are with the dog, and it's, there's been some places I go into, and people tell me I can't be there with the dog or whatever the case is, but you know, I try to use those instances as a learning experience for the companies. You know, I'll talk to the manager, whatever the case is, to say this is what's going on. This is the rules for service dogs, and you should really train your people to understand it.
So in the public, if you see, for our viewers, if you see a guide dog or a service dog, you should not think about disability as much as this is overcoming disability. This is allowing the veteran to live a much fuller life.
Right. It completely you know, fulfills my life, being able to go out and to have him around, and it does, you know, a lot of people look at you a little bit weird at first, but you know, you get used to that, and you just explain to them what's going on, and it's such a new phenomenon that it really has been an uphill battle, and there's a lot of educating on my part to, you know, advocate for service dogs and that sort of thing, to get everyone familiar with what's going on.
Well, in our last minute, maybe you could say something about the fact, I know that the VA not everyone has accepted service dogs there, but they're starting to accept it even more.
Yeah, the VA doesn't recognize psychiatric service dogs yet. It's something I think it's coming down the pipe, but it's just kind of the matter of who's going to train them, you know, how it's going to be regulated. I think they believe in it, but it's just too early in the process. But I think down the road you're gonna see more psychiatric service dogs through the VA.
And the bottom line for our viewers is, if you know someone who needs a service dog, you can encourage them to get a service dog. And for our viewership, they ought to accept service dogs because they help you as a veteran who might have a disability to lead a better life.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You should, if you know someone who may benefit from a service dog, it's amazing the difference that they make.
Very good. Well, Tony, I want to thank you for being our guest today on America Salutes. Thank you for what you do for our veterans, and thank you for sharing your life experiences. And so hopefully someone out in our community can benefit from that. And for America Salutes, this is Milton Schoen, thanking you for watching our show.